Hi, my name's Sim and I work for the Lakes International Comic Art Festival. Welcome to one of our Comic Potential videos. In this short video, we're going to have a look at speech bubbles and other types of bubbles that are used for communication of text in comics. I'll give you some examples and show you some suggestions of how different types of speech bubbles can be used in the classroom. Of course, the best way to introduce students and pupils to speech bubbles is to read comics with them or to them, or give them the opportunity to read comics. If you're trying to read comics to children, a visualizer will be a really useful piece of equipment. Speech bubbles are one of the most well-known features of comics, but even so, we're going to have a look at what the general features are and look at some different kinds of speech bubbles. Here's a short video to help you find out. Using speech bubbles might not come naturally to children or to teachers, so here's another video with a few top tips. So, as a way to present speech or thought or shouts in a comic narrative, speech bubbles are an invaluable tool. For quite a while now, teachers have used speech bubbles as a precursor for getting children to use speech marks in written text. So speech bubbles can help with the problem that pupils often have identifying the actual words spoken by a character when they're using speech marks in a piece of writing. So now I'm going to show you a way to use this pre-speech marks idea in a slightly more challenging way. So I've talked about how speech bubbles can help a child to identify the actual speech that a character is saying, but also by using something like this at the same time, you can work on using more imaginative words than just said. Very often teachers want children to use more appropriate words, more exciting words than said. So here's a way of doing it with speech bubbles. We've got the said one here, I want to start a band, said Bjorn. But here we can see that this person is thinking about joining the band. So we might use the speech marks and write, I'd like to join too. Because they're the only words in the speech bubble, we know to put the speech marks there. And it's not actually a speech bubble, it's a thought bubble, so we can write thought. Annika. Next, we've got a couple of examples. I want to join, clearly this person's shouting. And over here, this person is actually whispering, I think this is going to be big. Okay, so it's a good way to pick the actual spoken words out of the speech bubble and also change the end of it into a more appropriate word than just using said all the time. Down here we've got them all stood together. You could do something like think up A sing bubble, if they're all going to sing together, what would a sing bubble look like? So here are a few ideas for using speech bubbles in other curriculum areas. So thought and speech bubbles are a great thing to use for learning languages. The idea is that the person's thinking the thought in their native language and then speaking it out loud to translate it into, in this case, Spanish. So using something like that and a blank one with the same image repeated lots of times, you can make yourself a sheet where you can use for practicing vocab and learning new words. Here's one where I've got a mixture of words thought in English, because that's the native language, and then spoken in French. So you can go around the sheet translating from English to French or French to English, depending on what vocabulary you're trying to learn. Here we've got three characters having a conversation, question being asked by this guy, and then these two, you can tell from the facial expressions how they're going to possibly give an answer to this and what they might say. If you did something like this, it wouldn't have to be as elaborate, it could just be stick people, but as long as some sort of expression on the faces, you know what answers they're going to give. And the potential for using this speech bubbles to start conversations in a foreign language about all kinds of different things is pretty huge. So here's another way to use speech bubbles and thought bubbles in the curriculum. I've got a picture of Henry VIII. He might be saying that he's looking forward to marrying his wife, and whichever one it is, and then he may be thinking she'd better give me a son or else, and she might be saying this is going to be great, marrying the king, whilst thinking I hope I don't get my head chopped off. So this way in history of showing perhaps what people are saying versus what they're thinking is a great use of speech and thought bubbles. But it could also be using something like PSHE. Imagine a situation where you've got a group of children and someone's trying to pressure someone into doing something. They might be saying that they'll do it, but thinking that they'd rather not. Finally, speech bubbles, thought bubbles and so on make a great addition to a classroom display. This could be a display that's produced by the teacher to share information or ideas, or a display that's produced by children. For example, a science display where predictions are shown as thought bubbles and methods and conclusions are shown as speech bubbles or even shout bubbles. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found that useful. For more ideas about using comic features and comics in the classroom, click on the link below.